introduction, or Bitcoiners that work on education all over the world. So I'm here with Valentin, Enrique, Herman, and Fidel. I want to ask you to introduce yourself before I'm going to talk more about the node network. So, Fidel, go ahead, what you do.
Yeah, pleasure meeting you all, guys. My name is Fidel Funes, and I am from AmiTH Academy in Roatan, Honduras. I am the Bitcoin educator over there.
That was quick.
That was quick,
how's it? My name is Herman. I'm the founder of Bitcoin Ikasi. It's a Bitcoin circular economy started in 2021, modeled after Bitcoin Beach, and we're a light node on the Mi Primer educational network.
Hi, my name is Enrique. I'm part of Free Madeira. I do the education front there, and yeah, I'm here to talk about our experience and hear from all the other educators.
Hi everyone, my name is Valentin Popescu. Originally I'm from Romania, but since 2007 I'm in Peru. I'm the director of Motive Global that works with circular economies around the country.
So all of these 4 projects, just for context for the audience, are part of the Node Network. Most of them are teaching the Bitcoin diploma already, either yourself or people that work for your organization. And the Node Network is an initiative to basically scale My First Bitcoin independently, globally, with community-led education. So for those that are teaching right now, you, Fidel, can you explain a little bit about what you're doing with the diploma, with the resources, and how you got into it?
Yeah, of course. So I started working with AmiTH earlier this year, and what we're doing at AmiTH is 2 main things. The first one is we're mining Bitcoin in Paraguay through hydroelectric power, right? And from the proceeds that we're generating over in Paraguay, we're providing the free education in Roatan. We're teaching the Mi Primer Bitcoin diploma in both public and private schools. So any place that'll welcome us, I'm happy to go and teach.
How is that for you guys in relation to the resources you're using?
So we're going to start doing the Mi Primer Bitcoin diploma in the first quarter next year. So we'll plan to start in February. So far, we've been using our own content developed by ourselves. We have an introduction to Bitcoin workshop that's split into a theory part and then a practical part. And then we plan to have other topic-specific workshops and courses.
And for you, Vali, I think you're teaching the Spanish version, right?
Yes. The thing is, for 3.5 years, we was looking for the best way to outreach the communities from the highest on the mountains and the jungle and the cities. And we was trying to find the best way and the best moment when we can learn and teach about Mi Primer Bitcoin and diploma. We educate and equip communities. We don't focus just in education and we leave. We stay there 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years, and make sure that Bitcoin is a habit for them. It's not just teaching and living, and making sure that everyone who works there in churches or local authorities can embrace Bitcoin, and also in the end they can they can celebrate with a diploma. So we implemented My First Bitcoin 4 months ago. And we have more than 120 people that already have diploma, and we are 80 people in the process. So thank God for that.
Yeah, so we started our educational program trying to build our own curriculum. And it turns out it's more difficult than you'd imagine to write a Bitcoin curriculum. When we started the Circular Economy Project, we realized education is going to have to be the foundation of what we do. Otherwise, it's just irresponsible introducing Bitcoin into a community like that. We deal with a lot of poverty, illiteracy is quite high, general education is not great. So education was a heavy focus from the beginning. Even though building the circular economy is our main focus, education has to be the sort of foundation. And so we started trying to figure out a curriculum. And I've been obsessed with Bitcoin for a long time, but when I started trying to write something about it, it was like I don't even know where to start. So when Mi Primer Bitcoin translated the diploma into English, I think we immediately grabbed it, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of what we were waiting for. So we started off with our own curriculum, but we very quickly moved on to the diploma, and it's worked great. It's just at that right level where, you know, we sort of teach from around 13 to 15 years of age, and it's a great age to start with proper Bitcoin education, and the diploma is a fantastic resource. We've been using that for, I think it's been over a year now, year and a half. No, it works great.
So I think the beauty of this panel is that we got 4 projects from all over the world. So I'm wondering, do we all have the same approach in education? Like, what is the story that we tell to the students or to the people that we educate? Is it just Bitcoin is the best money, that's it? Or is Bitcoin solving specific problems in your local communities, and that's why you're teaching the Bitcoin diploma? Just wondering if you have some different perspectives on that.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, the best approach is to first teach the kids how the traditional banking system works, or how it doesn't really work, and take it from there and put it in a perspective that Bitcoin is a tool. It's a solution, but you need to understand the problem first in order to have the right context, right? So that's how I approach it.
This is like an approach that works if you have access to bank accounts and see why it doesn't work. How is that for you guys? I'm looking at you, Vali and Herman. Does your community, the people there, do they have bank accounts?
Generally, I'd say it's about 50-50. But even the people who do have bank accounts tend not to use them. Banking costs in South Africa are on par with banking costs in Germany, even though obviously income levels are not the same at all. So people tend to use their bank accounts twice a month to receive their salary and withdraw everything in cash once a month. They live off cash for the entire month, receive the salary, withdraw the cash, and then to avoid banking costs. So yeah, we actually don't start with proper education like with a diploma. We start with practical demonstrations, and we start quite young. So we've got a bunch of kids between the ages of sort of 7 and 12, and they participate in other programs that we run, and we reward them in sats. And we don't actually teach them about Bitcoin. We just give them some sats to go and spend, and that's fun. And they they learn to use Bitcoin before anything else.
Well, in Madeira is part of Portugal, which is part of the EU, and basically everyone has a bank account. Everyone has access to applications to send money around. So our approach is more teaching them the basics of money. What is money? Why the problems that money has nowadays, and how Bitcoin can solve those problems. How it can be function better as money than what they're used to. And yeah, that's our first approach.
Well, in Peru was very funny when I was trying to speak with the people, telling them that Bitcoin is decentralized. They are like, welcome to our community, we are decentralized. So finally you present something that we understand. And I thought it would be easy. Well, every community have a different, background, a different characteristics. But most of the people, like 90%, 95% from them, don't have any bank account. Even they don't have IDs. Most of the women's, they don't know how to read and write. So it was a huge challenge. But Bitcoin today, for most of them, is part of daily life. So now we challenge with savings. The word savings in Latin America, it's a big change. But yeah, the challenging was very, very strong. But it's an amazing tool to connect those unreached. Those who are decentralized with Bitcoin is amazing. I celebrate this on the field. We have plans, we have projects, we have strategies. But honestly, when you are work on the land, on the field with the people, you realize the huge impact that maybe I didn't learn on a workshop or something, before.
One of the other things of the Node network which I like a lot is that everyone is just basically its own independent project. It's not my first Bitcoin owning everyone and we run the education programs, but everyone is doing it individually. So can you explain a little bit, like whoever of you, how it is to like set up your own NGO or your own circular economy or your own project in which you start to inject education suddenly? Or
Yeah, I can go first. I think, in our case, we had an existing organization, and the Mi Primer Bitcoin Diploma fits into that, but it's not by any means the entirety of the organization. Our focus is around a surf school that we run 5 days a week, and we've got a bunch of kids from a very poor neighborhood that we bring down to the beach, teach them surfing, we feed them, and then as they grow older, we supplement that physical education with a more sort of academic education, and Bitcoin is part of that. But it's also not the be-all and end-all of their educational curriculum. We educate on a bunch of other subjects too, mathematics, language, whatever else. So the Mi Primer Bitcoin Diploma plugs into what we do, but it's not. It's I'd say maybe 10 to 15% of the entire organization. In retrospect, I'm not sure setting up an organization was the right idea because paperwork sucks. And so if you can go the route of not having to do that, then that should be considered. But we have the organization set up and we use it, and it is beneficial to a certain extent for receiving donations. If you are a registered non-profit in South Africa, you do receive donations tax-free. So we can legally avoid paying taxes on any donations that we receive. So there are benefits to it, but it's not necessarily the right way to go.
So in Madeira, the setup we have is there's Free Madeira, which is a non-profit organization. We, alongside the education efforts, we also work on merchant adoption. So we go to businesses and explain how they can benefit from accepting Bitcoin. At this point, it's already businesses coming to us asking for our help on how to start accepting Bitcoin. And I think the two things go hand in hand, because you can't have a bunch of businesses accepting Bitcoin without anyone to go and spend it there, or otherwise business owners get demotivated. Like if they have everything set up and no one goes and pays in Bitcoin, why am I doing this? So the two things have to go hand in hand, and that's how we approach it.
it's almost like everyone's always focusing on circular economies, but it's the output and education is the input. And you can start a circular economy, but without education, it's nothing.
Well, in our case, it helps that a bunch of Bitcoiners have started moving to Madeira, so that's some people already that will go and spend and look for those places that accept Bitcoin. But we have more and more people who are being educated on Bitcoin who also go and spend it. And there was something else I was going to say, but I forgot it.
Can I add something there?
Of course.
Just on that point you mentioned, I think circular economies and educational programs like Mi Primer Bitcoin, they go hand in hand. You can't do one without the other. With you guys, obviously, you're in El Salvador. Bitcoin's legal tender. There's circular economies around you. You don't have to necessarily build one yourself. But I think in other projects, like in our case, we kind of, it's not one or the other. We had to do both at the same time. We started the circular economy, but as soon as we launched that, we realized education is going to have to be the bedrock of what we do. So it's interesting that you guys are including the circular economy conversation in this event today, because I do think those two really go hand in hand.
Yeah, and we have a special panel discussion here at, I think, 3 p.m. for everyone who wants to talk specifically about circular economies, but I guess about education as well. What I hear you saying, Enrique, is that Free Madeira is like, it is made by Bitcoiners and the Bitcoiners are teaching. You're the lead teacher. I think the same comes for you, Fidel. Like MEDH is all Bitcoiners, right? But for you, Vali, and also for you, Herman, you are more of like a bigger organization that's doing way more besides only Bitcoin education. I guess part of the team is also not necessarily a Bitcoiner. So how do you do that? How do you train your staff? How do you get them at a certain level that they can be the leader in terms of Bitcoin education in their own community?
Thank you, Arnold. In my case, so I'm in Peru since 2007, developing social projects, working with widows, with orphans, rescue children from sexual abuse, and working against malnutrition, developing. So every time when people ask me about how did you find Bitcoin, I said, I didn't find, unfortunately, Bitcoin. Bitcoin found me in the middle of pandemia. the country was shut down, and someone says, okay, I know what you are doing, and we want to offer it for you a few sets so you can buy, you know, groceries for people. And I said, yes, I'm an NGO, I'm a non-profit organization, I can receive everything. So I received the sets in the wallet. I downloaded the wallet, and I said, okay, where is the store, the grocery store? And I said, I don't find one. I thought that my internet has a problem, so I went to the computer of my wife and I said, can you find a grocery store? And no one was selling. And I said, it's the first time in my life when I have $5,000 in my right hand and I cannot buy one bottle of water in the middle of pandemia. People were starving. And I said, what should I do? Should I give back the sats? And I said, that's it? Or should I do something? I have to educate. But I didn't know what Bitcoin is. So I started to educate myself. And then going on the street, and I said, I don't know much about Bitcoin, but I know what Bitcoin can do in your business. So I literally understand that I need to educate, but with the organization that I was working with, we decided to open a new one in the United States called Motive that can receive donation there, and we use in Peru. So actually today I'm running 2 NGOs. The problem is when you set NGO in Peru, it's kind of complicated. Probably you guys know in Peru there are a lot of problems with drugs production and laundry money, things like this. So sometimes people think, you know, NGO it's like that. So we try to we try to be an example. And you are saying how we are Bitcoiners, but you work with people in your staff that are not Bitcoiners. First of all, the people that work in the staff have to be leaders that are serving, not just leaders that are talking. And if you understand what Bitcoin is, giving freedom, we are not those NGO that give charity, throwing candies to the people and taking pictures. We don't do that. We work in a community trying to do vocational training for women, education for kids, so they can have education and be independent. And the Bitcoin is the best tool that we can give them. Okay, you are educated, but we equip you with this tool. So leaders are serving. This is, I think, our secret success, not just going and talk, but being there in the community and training people from the community. Not me from Lima going to the mountains or in the jungle. They'll be like, yeah, it's easy for you talking because you live in the capital. Okay, pick someone from there, train them, put the passion, they will serve, and the community will embrace the example. So we receive donations, and through that we doing events, and also, yes, Mi Primer Bitcoin. I think I came late on the team. I'm sorry for that. I learned from my mistakes. I wasn't proud, like, no, I have my own agenda. No, but people on the mountains, when you tell about diploma or something, they say, I don't need a degree. I work by myself. I don't believe in that. So we thought that diploma can be an obstacle, but honestly, no. So we learn by our mistakes. Thank you for inviting us to be part of this amazing family.
Because it really is. We heard a little bit already earlier from John in the introduction that we have general assemblies where we come together. I know you and Fidel, you've been there many times. Can you maybe explain a little bit how it is to have this sense of community when you're teaching, to know that you're not alone and that there's like a network of people doing the exact same thing?
Yeah, of course. So in my personal case, I'm a fairly new Bitcoin educator, so I'm pretty transparent. When I don't understand anything, I can just reach out to you or to one of the other members, right? And ask for opinions, ask for guidance, I could say. So it's pretty good to know that I have a group of people that are Bitcoiners backing me up.
And how does, because you're a teacher and you are as well, Enrique, like teaching yourself, can you just explain, like, how does your general day look like? How do you bring people into, like, your classrooms? What are you really teaching? Like, is it one class a week, or like, how does your day look like as an educator?
Okay, so far we've been we've been doing events, maybe like, let's say once a month, where we open registration, so people can register for the event and then come to the workshop. And yeah, on how to reach people, we go on social media and promote it there. One important, and this might not be the case everywhere, or most probably it isn't, but in Madeira, in Portugal, we know that we'll get a lot of people that they see Bitcoin and they're interested in learning how can they make money from Bitcoin. So from the beginning, we have to, and that's actually what I first thing I do in the workshop is tell them, we're not going to teach you how to trade Bitcoin. This is not the focus here. This is not for you to learn how to make more euros and get more euros in your bank account. So that's the first thing we explain, and then that, everyone's clear on what the workshop will be.
And how about you, Fidel? How far do you go? How deep do you go into Bitcoin? Is it like the basics, or you do the 10 chapters and then it's finished? You have a graduation, or?
Yeah, so at AmiTH we do the 10 chapters for sure, and then at the end we do a graduation that is obviously fully funded by us. We invite the kids to our center and we buy them pizza and we have a very good time together. We actually have the first and only node in Roatan and the first and only miner in Roatan, so the kids can actually see the miners and the nodes in person, in real life. So if it wasn't for us having them there, it would probably be very hard for them to have access to a node or a miner. And in terms of outreach, we haven't really tried social media that much to get schools. So what I'll do as the educator, I go to the schools and talk to the principals, and I would usually bring a copy of the Mi Primer Bitcoin book, and I would go through the 10 chapters with them really quickly, just so that they can see that we're not teaching anything that's bad, or trying to scam the kids or stuff like that, because that's the main concept. And Roatan specifically, people don't really understand digital money and they don't understand Bitcoin, so they assume that it's a scam. So I just go there to reassure them that it's nothing bad, and we're actually trying to help them, and it's all for free.
And for you, Herman, I think the approach is slightly different, right? Finding the students and also like training the trainers to be going out in the community. Can you tell a little bit about how it is to like empower your team members to like independently like be this leader?
Yeah, sure. I suppose there's two different types of staff members on our team. Half of them, we don't really educate on Bitcoin. They earn their salaries in Bitcoin and they learn what they have to learn in order to use it and store it safely. So they would learn the basics. The other half of the team are actual Bitcoin educators. So with them, that's my role. I work with that part of the team and educate them quite heavily on Bitcoin. So we go quite deep down the rabbit hole, and they then go out to the shops and recruit students for the Bitcoin Diploma program, and work with community members and organize community events focused on Bitcoin education, and then also run the Bitcoin Diploma program. We have a full-time teacher that works 5 days a week, and she teaches the diploma classes 5 days a week. She is a former primary school teacher, so she's got a formal teaching background. When she came to us 2 years ago, she had no experience in Bitcoin, so it took some time to get her to a point where she felt confident enough to teach the diploma. And her first cohort of students was probably quite experimental. She learned the diploma herself going through that, but she's on to her second or third one now. So it's hard educating the educators. It's super challenging. I was having that conversation with Adam from Bitcoin Vic Falls just now on how to do that. I think it's kind of like that spark that you need. If you don't have a Bitcoiner in the community creating one, that's tough. It's ideal if you could find someone that already understands it, but if you don't, then it's going to be a long, hard road to walk with a person, and it could be quite frustrating at times.
I think there is a beauty about the node network, which is that if there is a lot of demand for the same solution, we can come up with it all together. So, for example, there is one of the nodes doing teacher training onboarding. um, every second Saturday of the month, if I'm not mistaken, mainly for like really the people that don't educate a cohort yet. They can just tag along and learn from. It's more like the pedagogical part, not necessarily Bitcoin, but like how do you educate? And of course, there's the other challenge to get them to understand Bitcoin as well, of course. And this is, I think, one of the challenges that many nodes do have, many educational projects. I'm wondering if, listening to your stories, do we all face the same challenges, or do you have some very specific challenges in educating your communities that are really very much like connected to the local situation that you really have to solve alone, or that you don't know how to solve? Like what troubles or what challenges do you face?
In our case, the biggest challenge is the languages, because you have different dialects in the jungle or in the highest mountains, and we need translators. And sometimes, as you was mentioned, it's easy to find Bitcoiners that are already there in the community than to train. The problem is sometimes you find people that are hybrid, mixed, and they start to talk about Bitcoin, but they finish talk about Ethereum, shitcoins, blah, blah. So it takes a while to tell them we are not teaching about that. So I prefer to start with someone from the scratch at some point. But yeah, the challenge is about the language, that those barrier is strong, because even on the translation, there are very technical things that you cannot translate. And most of them never had a cell phone. Even before. So it's like you start from scratch. Like I said, we don't start teaching a diploma. We start to teach why you need the technology, why you need to connect. We have these tools, so it takes a while. And I think the best way to do that is through example. I call woman purse. When it's a party and a woman show with the purse, all the ladies want to buy that purse. So I pick one family from the community, we invest there for a few weeks, education, everything, and the neighbors will be like, hey, you're an NGO, you have to help everybody. When I came here, everybody give the back. They said, go away. But one family chose to be part of the programs. So during the time, the others saw how this family is growing. So they say, we want to be like them. So this is how we saw the obstacles, but in the same thing, this obstacle teach us that we need to make disciples, to find the right leaders there. So they will lead through them example, and they spoke the language. So the language is the biggest barrier. Then the technical internet connections. Now we have Starlink, but we are not millionaires, to buy Starlink for everybody. And I think also that the third challenge is, unfortunately, the scammers. Peru had a lot of scammers in Bitcoin. So when you talk about NGO, oh, laundry money, Bitcoin, oh, scammers. So we have to spend a lot of energy and time talking about we are not scammers, we are not laundering money. So that takes time.
Challenge is what I already mentioned, that people look at Bitcoin through the wrong lens, and they might come to the workshop with that idea. To be fair, most people know that they're there to learn about Bitcoin and not trading and whatever. But that would be the main challenge. And in the beginning, it was finding students, but I think that as you start teaching more and more people, they start feeding the courses, because they let their friends and family know about it, and then you get more people coming to you.
So for you, it's more like human problems rather than technical issues.
Exactly, yeah.
You have different insights?
Yeah, I think also scams is a massive challenge. The origins of our project, Bitcoin Ikasi, actually, I have a scammer to thank for this. We were in the middle of COVID lockdowns, and the project at that time had nothing to do with Bitcoin. We just had this surfing school where we had youth coming down, and we teach kids how to surf. And I walked in one day and I found a person who I actually knew quite well, sitting talking to one of our coaches, selling him on a scam that used the Bitcoin name. And that put me in a position where I had to have a conversation with our coaches about Bitcoin, because I knew that as soon as I left, they would walk out the door, follow this guy down the road, and give him all their money. So it kind of started that way. Scams is a massive challenge, because scammers tend to target communities where illiteracy is high. It's easier to scam a person if they can't read, and it's even easier to scam them if they're desperate on top of that. So scams is a big challenge. I think another massive challenge is funding. Obviously, I think any non-profit organization anywhere in the world is going to have that challenge. How do you fund your project? And John touched on that earlier. Is if you're gonna take funding from commercial partners, how do you keep yourself impartial? It's quite a challenge, and there's no easy solution to that. The only thing that I found that works to approach that problem is to stay as small as possible for as long as possible. And a lot of people would look at our organization, and it looks quite big. We have several people working for us, but it's been many years over which we built that up. The Bitcoin component only started in the last 3 years, but we've been running this program for over a decade and a half. So if you could stay small for as long as possible, I think your funding requirements don't balloon out of control overnight. And I've seen projects fail left, right, and center when they take on too much responsibility and become too reliant on one particular donor. Whereas projects who stay small and stay nimble and can kind of, shrink down to a skeleton crew if they have to, can survive tough times. I think that's probably the right mindset with which to approach the funding problem.
I think, Fidel, you have something cool to say about funding as well. With the Miner for Kids program, that maybe not solves the problem, but it's a nice idea. Can you explain a little bit what it is and how you bring this into your classroom?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to be talking a bit more in depth about Miners for Kids at Adopting Bitcoin as well. But the Miners for Kids project is a project that we donated a miner, and all the proceeds from the miner go to the kids who use the Wiser app. Because the Wiser app teaches you about financial technology and responsibility and Bitcoin specifically, right? So the idea is that the kids who learn the most through the Wiser app get most of the proceeds from the miner, right? It's divided according to work output. Because not only did we want to give back to the community, but also our diploma usually lasts about 2 weeks. It's 1 hour per day, 5 days a week, 2 weeks. But the idea was, well, after the diploma, what's next? That's just the end for the education to the kids. So we decided to use it that way so that we can provide continued learning. And obviously, we donated the miner, but we've been using crowdfunding from Bitcoiners, people who want to support us. They provided donations to pay for the electricity for the miner.
I like that. We have a couple of minutes. I have 2 more questions and maybe some questions from the audience as well. Did you see how Bitcoin education changes lives in your communities? And can you inspire others to maybe start to change their own communities as well? Do you have stories?
Wow. I'm very emotional when you talk about it, because I have the people's faces, Sometimes as leaders, you cannot save everybody. You can teach. You want to teach more, and one of the things is it's very difficult for me to stay small. This is one of the things that I learned as a leader, and you was mentioned, stay small and make things happen. But I believe there is a book called Thank God for Bitcoin, and I challenge the audience to find this book. I believe in a God who provides for the necessities, and when you see the people, first of all, they are very skeptical what the tool is, how they will gonna use it. Why? Because everybody has an emergency. In Latin America, everybody has an emergency. We starved. We don't have malnutrition. I need to work. They don't have time to listen to you about Bitcoin. And you have to take those emergency for 1 minute. You have 1 minute to explain them the importance of having education. And after a while, people come to you and say, thank you. And I thought that in the community, they embrace the Bitcoin. The women's learn about sewing. They have their own projects. And now the diploma. And I'm done. I'm doing a great thing. And they said, Valley, we have a surprise for you. And I thought, okay, they have a scarf for me or a gift or something. No, we have something to tell you. You came here and you didn't throw gifts to us. And we understand that our duty is not just to be happy. We want to share. I'm like, want to share with who? With the next town. But I didn't tell you to do that. That's the point. We want to share the experience. It's like making disciples. Like we have a big tool, we have the vaccine. We want to give this to others with our story, with our experience. I think this is the biggest gift I ever received. You know, as a leader, you think, okay, you had the budget, you had the results, take the picture and have a nice life. But they say, we want to continue this. That's amazing. This work doesn't have to depend on us as people, as name like Valentin. Wow, the greater Bitcoiner in Peru. No, it's about the tool in the hands of the people, and they understand that they have freedom, but this freedom they want to share with others. That's passion. So, yeah, I have so many stories, but I want to hear the stories from others. Believe me, I will cry the whole day. I'm sorry.
Well, before I want to hear your stories, this is also kind of the philosophy of my first Bitcoin, to empower others to continue doing what we're doing by making everything open source, by inspiring, by like bringing people together so we can learn from each other, we can strengthen each other, we can share challenges and do it all together. So hearing this is almost like kind of one of those examples. That is exactly why we're here today, to share things, to give things away, to not take things from another. And just a story that, like in the Node network, we have one of the educators from Kenya is Dekor, and he graduated 5-6 cohorts so far. And one of his students started a project in Nigeria called Bitcoin Africa Story. So he is a graduate. He started to teach a Bitcoin diploma now. And yesterday I saw a message that one of the graduates from Bitcoin Africa Story is starting his own education project right now in South Africa. And you see like this chain of people that are empowered by just having those resources, by taking it to their own community after they graduated to do exactly what you're saying. And this is happening on a global level, and it's just so powerful to see that. Do you have something similar in your communities that you see people being empowered or?
Yeah, there's one interesting story I could share. That's to do with the teacher that we employ. It's interesting to see how she's become more passionate about education since teaching Bitcoin and not teaching to put it politely, a useless government-funded curriculum. The South African Department of Education has completely screwed up the educational curriculum, unfortunately. In an attempt to improve the numbers, they lowered the standards, and I think it's quite a common story. It took a long time. It took time to get her to understand Bitcoin, to get her confident enough to teach it. But now that she's into it, it's amazing to see a person become passionate about their vocation. She obviously has a passion for education. She has 10 years teaching experience in the traditional schooling system, left that behind and randomly applied for a position at our organization, knowing nothing about Bitcoin, and kind of came in a little disillusioned with education in general. 10 years in the traditional educational system would kill my spirit. And so to see her become passionate about education again, specifically because she's teaching something so meaningful. It's something. Bitcoin is something that has a meaningful impact on people's lives all around us. I've seen people's lives transformed because they've been stacking sats throughout this entire bear market, And yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what the mood's going to be like when I get back, because I've been gone for about a week, and as you know, the last week has been interesting. So we've had some of the shop owners who they've been stacking all through since, you know, I don't know what the bottom was, 20 something, stacking all the way. The coaches that earn their salaries, we don't pay any salaries in fiat. 100% of all our salaries are paid in Bitcoin. So all the staff are stacking sats, and to see that immediate impact on a person's life, and then to know that you're the one teaching them the fundamentals of that thing, to see that passion reignited in a person that has a passion for education is, yeah, inspiring.
Yes, and Roatan specifically, we are definitely creating a great impact. For example, with the Mi Primer Bitcoin, just teaching kids in general about finance and how the economics work. The specific terms are like fractional reserve banking, inflation, time preference. These are things that they would not be able to learn at all in Honduras because it's not part of the curriculum, right? You would have to go to a private college or a private school to maybe be able to learn that. So we're providing education that is not easily accessible for them. But more specifically in Roatan, there's a community called the Crawfish Rock community, which is a very neglected community, unfortunately. And they saw the most benefit because most of them are uneducated and they don't have access to good quality education, which creates an issue because they don't have the time or the knowledge to, say, for example, go and open up a bank account, right? And when you open up a bank account, they ask you for all sorts of stuff. So we introduced them to Lightning payments, specifically Blink, and most of them are fishermen, right? So they created their own circular economy, selling fish and all sorts of seafood amongst themselves, and now it's slowly taking off, you know. So they saw the biggest impact, I would say.
Well, I'll share a small story from someone in our team. So part of the education effort is not directly related to the courses that we teach and the diplomas that we have, but also in helping merchants accept Bitcoin. So the person who does this in our team is Charlie. Charlie is from Venezuela. And like Charlie, there's many people from Venezuela in Madeira. There was a big wave of immigration from Madeira to Venezuela back in the 50s and 60s. And many of those people have left Venezuela. And Charlie used Bitcoin to be able to leave Venezuela with his family with whatever wealth they could take with them using Bitcoin. And so maybe that's also part of the reason why he's so enthusiastic with his work and with helping merchants understand Bitcoin. Yeah, that's just a small story.
Thank you. I think we're also running out of time. I think it was a beautiful ending of this panel discussion with some very inspirational stories, the impact we can make with education. So I just want to say to everyone in the audience that nothing should stop you to do the same as these projects. We got everything available for free and open source. Talk to me if you want to educate your own community, if you want to create stories like these and really change the world together. Thanks, everyone. Big round of applause for Fidel, Herman, Enrique, and Vali.
Thank you.